Of course, Eric Gordon and Bradley Beal and whomever else you want to throw out there who is an NBA player currently doesn't care about the 7th graders. But, hey, James, sorry, it's literally your job to care about the 7th graders.
Yeah.
What are we doing? You 1 and 2 are not the same. Guys, what do Matt Ishbia and Michael Jordan have in common?
What's that, Lindsay?
You answer.
Fuck them kids.
That's right. Here's what Matt Ishbia said without even being asked about the future of draft and the Suns and all the things.
And like I said, if fans like to look in the future and say, hey, I really like that 2031 draft pick because maybe that 7th grader is going to be really good and we're going to draft him and one day he's going to be a player. Like, you ain't going to like the Phoenix Suns because we're going to say draft picks are to get great players. And we, by the way, narrative out there, and I know, Gerald, you got it right when I read what you wrote today. 5 of the next 8 years, we have a first-round draft pick. I know that's not like a cool thing to say out there because people like to, say their narratives. We have no draft picks, but we have 5 of the next 8 years, and we can trade 2 of them next month if we want.
So what I take is he's saying Gerald doesn't want draft picks.
This has been spun in the worst way.
What does Matt Ishbia, Michael Jordan, and Gerald Gordon have in common?
Sorry, Amy.
Oh no.
I love the bop to the way he went about it.
Oh yeah.
He was like, yo, you want that 7-year-old? You want 7th grade? Yeah,
dodging those first-round draft picks. No.
Damn them 7th graders.
Yeah. I love that. It was not just him though, because James Jones took shots at these unnamed 7th graders as well.
I love that they did the math as a group and we're like, we're talking about 7th graders, not 6th graders, not 5th graders, no, 7th graders.
They had to get it right. I feel like we should, though, to that point, clarify what the Suns do and do not have because nobody seems to understand this outside of Phoenix, and even some people in Phoenix are confused. So look at me, eye contact. This is what the Suns have. It's okay. This is what the Suns have over the next few years. They have this year's first-round pick. There was pick swap rights at stake, but the team that they owed them to finished with a better pick, so they're going to keep that pick at number 22. That becomes trade eligible as soon as draft night arrives. 2026, they will have a first-round pick. They owe swap rights to the Grizzlies, to the Magic, and to the Wizards. So, it's possible Orlando overtakes the Suns by then. Maybe the Magic are on the rise. They're a young team. They've got a promising future. Maybe the Grizzlies get it together with Ja Morant and become a contender. The Wizards, I don't think in the next 2 years are going to have a better record than the Suns and finish with a better pick. So I think you look at those two teams, yes, you might have to swap, but you still have a first-round pick. Yeah. And I don't really see any of those teams, maybe Orlando, being like a contender where you're moved to the bottom of the first round. 2028, same deal with the Nets and the Wizards, first round pick swap. 2030 pick swap with Grizzlies and Wizards. Now, again, this is only if those teams have a worse pick than the Suns do and decide, hey, we're going to move up and we're going to take the Suns pick.
Correct.
No matter what, though, even if that happens, they will still have a first round pick in those years. And as soon as draft night hits for those years, those picks are tradable. So it's not like they're just completely devoid of assets. They just have to be very creative in how they use them, and they have to wait to be able to use them.
So what you're saying is there's a difference in having no picks and not having full control over said picks.
Correct. 100% correct.
Look at me go. I paid attention in class.
There you go.
I love that Matt Ishbia, though, is going to invest millions and millions into a G League team. And he's like, but the whole principle of the G League and drafting guys who put it there, to hell with it.
Yep. Yeah. We don't care about them 7th graders. We will take them on our G League team. However.
That should be what the G League team's called. The Phoenix 7th graders.
Phoenix 7th graders.
That would be pretty funny.
So, Gerald, as you mentioned, James Jones did echo some of the things that Matt Ishbia said here. James was asked how he would assess where they are at in terms of flexibility for roster building and kind of around the limited assets that they do have given the moves they had to make to bring in some of this star power.
We're starting from a place of having a very good core of players, and we have the assets necessary to continue to use those assets to acquire players, right? And I said, going into this offseason, we have everything that we need to be able to add the players or the positions that will make us better. I'm not thinking about 2031. Like Matt said it before, we're not thinking about the 7th grader in 2031. We're talking about elite players who want to win, saying, how can we win today? How can we win tomorrow? How can we win the next 12 months? Devin's not thinking about 2031. Kevin's not thinking about 2031. Brad, Grayson, Royce, Eric Gordon, none of our guys are thinking about 2031. They're thinking about, we fell short of our goal this season. How do we run it back? How do we get better? How do we improve? How do we use all of our resources, all of our assets, all of our energy, our time? How do we invest those the right way so that we don't have this result again next summer?
Okay, so I'm not trying to be that guy, but I've had beef with everybody this week, so let's just round out Friday within the same way, okay? Sure. I have beef with that comment. Like, yeah, of course Devin doesn't care about the 7th graders. Of course Kevin doesn't care about the 7th graders. Of course Eric Gordon and Bradley Beal and whomever else you want to throw out there who is an NBA player currently doesn't care about the 7th graders. But, hey, James, sorry, it's literally your job to care about the 7th graders.
Yeah.
What are we doing? 1 and 2 are not the same.
Yeah. At one point, all those guys he mentioned were 7th graders,
right? And
they ended up on his team. So you better care. I get it. I get what he's trying to say, but it's true. As a general manager, you need to have your eyes on. We call it having your eyes on the streets. That 7th grader. There's a 7th grader out there that's going to bring some smoke, and you're supposed to know who they are and pay attention to that. But I get the premise of what he's saying.
Here's the premise. Kevin and Eric are going to be well into their 40s by 2031. So, of course, they don't give a shit. James Jones is probably going to be on to do his next job or 2 or 3 jobs
that's true.
Down the line by 2031. The only guy that probably should care about that is Matt Ishbia, because if he's going to own the team for the next 40 or 50 years, that will be his problem. And so that's the one guy that I think should. James has draft PTSD. I mean, just go look through it. I mean, Halliburton that he passed. There's all sorts of guys he's passed on and didn't get right or whatever.
But you could argue that's because he doesn't care about the draft enough.
Agreed, wholeheartedly. But people are acting almost surprised by these comments. And I'm like, he literally said this. I think it was to ESPN in an article that they don't care about the draft. Yeah. This was Matt Ishbia. This is a James Jones philosophy that he doesn't care about the draft, that he's willing to trade draft picks, that it does not matter to him and his team and the way that they built their front office.
I think the crux of what is being said here is this, that like we have the utmost confidence that the whole point of draft picks for them is to turn a draft pick into a good player.
Yeah.
And
he
they
literally
feel
said
like
that.
and
draft
they feel
picks
like
are to get great players.
Right. And they feel like by trading that they have a better chance than having to wait for a teenager or some young 20-year-old to develop. I would argue that if you look at the teams around the league, the contenders that have been able to sustain what they're doing beyond just their immediate window, they've done it by finding young players, young role players who can come into their system, learn the system, grow, and become the next generation, the next wave for that franchise. I think at some point they're going to have to do that. But I think the crux of what they're saying is we are so confident that we are turning Phoenix, our culture, our city, our organization into a place where people are going to want to come to the point that it's not going to matter. And that will be put to the test in, 4 or 5 years from now, maybe even 3 years from now, in terms of can you continue to bring in guys for lesser amounts because of what you're restricted by with this second tax apron? Can you continue to make these blockbuster trades and bring in guys to reset? Because at some point, you're going to have to use some draft picks. You can't just reset the board every year with veteran minimum guys or guys that want to trade their way to Phoenix or whatever. Like, the well is going to run dry at some point. I think they're very confident they're going to be able to handle that when it comes. But in the here and now, their goal is for the upcoming season, how can we contend to the utmost of our abilities? And everything beyond that, we'll figure it out when we get there.